Welcome and thanks for joining us for another episode of Code Girls on Air, a podcast exploring all things technology, female leadership, careers, education, and topics within the nonprofit sector. On this episode, we interviewed Elsa Hansen, who is a Senior Value Solutions Consultant at Coupa Software and a volunteer here at Code Girls United. So join Elsa and me to hear more of her story. Welcome, Elsa. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Makayla. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. Yeah, we're happy to have you. So could you start by just introducing yourself and then telling us a little bit about your background and your career?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Elsa Hansen. I am 30 years old and live in Whitefish, Montana. I actually grew up in small town Idaho, northern Idaho, and in Lewiston, Idaho. Definitely not a big tech culture or ton of opportunity. I didn't even know what the tech segment was when I was growing up, but was heavily involved. And there also was not a lot of opportunities where I grew up in terms of getting exposed to things like Code Girls or, just the technology world. So I grew up school-wise with an interest in business for sure, and was involved in school groups like DECA, where I got to, I guess, have a little bit more hands-on professional experience, and then ended up going to college in Idaho, focusing in accounting and finance. Not really sure what I wanted to do with that, but just knew I wanted to be in business in some sense of the world, and that led me to getting a job right out of college in Seattle in public accounting. I moved to Seattle, my first kind of big city experience, which was amazing, and that's also where I got exposed to so many more opportunities and just like what a career could look like. And especially in tech, Seattle's a big tech hub. And so got exposed to a ton of big technology companies and was really drawn to just the culture of those companies. They always seem to be fun and like have, unlimited PTO, the ping pong tables, unlimited food in their offices. And so, started to get interested in wanting to explore a career in tech from there, and ended up pivoting from public accounting to working at a technology company, SAP Concur, shortly after moving to Seattle, and been in that field ever since. So.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I guess you didn't have a lot of opportunity in tech, but the little bit that you did have growing up, did you like it, or was it just something kind of you didn't really think about?
It's something I honestly didn't really even think about. It's I always, at the time that I was growing up, computer programmers, coders, it almost is like I didn't even believe that I had the skill set to be able to do that. There wasn't any sort of like education or classes in school, so it felt like that was just a different world that I was never going to know anything about. So I knew I wanted to again be in business, but tech just didn't even seem in the world of possibilities for me. It felt like the movies, like the Google and the the Apple and all these crazy companies that I couldn't possibly imagine myself working at then. It wasn't really until Seattle, like seeing these companies, meeting people that were working at these companies, that I was like, oh, I can do this. Anybody can do this. You just have to be exposed to it. No,
that's wonderful. So what surprised you most when you kind of started out in the tech field?
I think I guess what drew me to it and what is true in the field is just working for these companies that are like so innovative. They're the people that these companies are creating all of this technology that we're using every day. They're on the forefront of all of the new capabilities that we're experiencing in our world, like AI and like all of these, what seem just like concepts, or again, like a world that I was not involved in at all. I'm now in, and I'm seeing, like, working with these people that are creating products that are using all of this like innovative, advanced, cutting edge technology, and we're like seeing it all in action. So I think it's just really crazy to be part of. I work for an AI company, so like part of all of this change and innovation, and at the forefront of it, is probably what's most shocking and just cool to see.
Something you never saw yourself really going into. So in your opinion, what's one personality trait or someone would need to be successful in your job?
Yeah. So my job is kind of a unique job that, again, I had no exposure to up until I really had this job. It's called solutions consulting or pre-sales. So it essentially sits between the sales teams and then product, so the engineering, and helps. We're a client-facing role. We basically help translate what our product team has created in terms of features and functions and capabilities,
Gotcha.
and translating that to value and presentations and making it real for customers. And so I think the biggest thing that you have to have really in any tech field, but especially in mine, is genuine curiosity, wanting to understand how things work, like how businesses operate, what kinds of challenges businesses are facing, what kinds of goals they have. And you have to be genuinely curious and wanting to learn about technology because you're constantly having to, technology is changing every single day and there's new releases every single day. So it's not like you learn something and then you have this skill set forever. It's like you're committing to relearning again and again and again, learning more and more and more as more innovation happens, more new releases happen. So genuine curiosity. And then I would just say emotional intelligence, the desire to work with other people and to be able to kind of regulate yourself, read the room, and be really intentional about how you're interacting with customers in a client-facing role.
Yeah, well, and you touched on AI a little bit. Where do you see the future of your field going now with that so prominent in our culture?
Yeah, it's huge. So I work in the financial technology space, which is kind of a nice transition from accounting to working in a tech field that is still focused on accounting and finance, but the technology side of it. And it's changing everything. I mean, basically the things that, for example, what I started doing in my career, public accounting, technology has transformed that entire field where everything I used to be doing now is just done in a matter of seconds with AI technology, and the humans are just reviewing information, essentially managing exceptions. Same thing with finance operations, these things that humans are used to doing, whether it's analyzing big data sets and trying to create custom reports that allow you to visualize data in a way that makes sense or helps you make decisions. Those are all very tedious tasks that humans typically are faced with. And now we have AI that can ingest millions and trillions of data points and spit out a custom dashboard with everything you're looking for in a matter of seconds. So really the mundane routine things that humans used to do have all transformed, and technology can do all those things, and it's allowing humans to focus on very high level strategic tasks versus the mundane kind of monotonous things that now technology is automated. Yeah.
Well, and so do you think AI will continue just doing the mundane stuff, or also do you think it'll start having its hand in the more technical or more complex areas?
I think it's already in the more complex areas, but it's always going to miss that human element. So I think even in our field, we can have AI, again, and digest a ton of information and spit out this one-page super concise summary that would normally take a human maybe a week to come up with. But if you read that, it's missing just character and empathy, and there's human components that are not there. And so I think you're always going to need, my opinion is that you're always going to need a human to, I guess, humanize the work of AI, provide that human element in whatever work you're doing. And so it's almost like humans have to double down on kind of the soft skills versus more of the technical skills that the technology can now do for you.
Yeah, very cool. So do you think you could kind of talk about what a day in your life looks like and what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis?
Totally. Yeah. So but that's part of the excitement of my work. Every day is a little different. It's definitely not monotonous. One day, could look totally different than the other, but for example, I'll wake up in the morning. Generally, my partner brings me coffee in bed and my dog jumping on my bed too, which is a great start. I try to go for a walk in the morning, have some breakfast, and then I head into my home office on most days. Check my email, which generally gives me an idea of the kinds of meetings that I have scheduled that day or that week. And those meetings can look like a meeting with our product engineering team that's giving us an overview of all of the new releases that are coming out that we have to go and then start presenting to our customers. It could look like a strategy session with an internal account team where we're talking through how we're going to approach a certain customer, how we might solution for them or build a solution for them. And it could even be customer client-facing conversations where we're having things like discovery whiteboarding sessions, all designed to learn all about this company and what their challenges are, what their goals are, so that we can then put together a tailored solution or presentation. that addresses those challenges and shows them how our software is going to help them achieve their goals.
Nice. So you work with clients directly quite a bit then?
Yes, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part? Like, do you like working with the clients or maybe the engineers more?
Yeah.
What's kind of your favorite?
I actually love being client-facing. I think that's the unique part of my role. I still get to have the technical side and working with product, but I like being kind of the front-facing part of our company. I think working with people is really exciting to me, collaborating with people, and you can feel yourself like making an impact directly with the client you're working with, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, I love working with clients. I think the collaboration component of it is energizing, and seeing the direct impact that your software and the work that you've done has on their company is really cool. Yeah.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. And we get to work with cool companies and customers. Like one of my favorite workout brands, I'm a yoga teacher as well as
really?
Yoga. Yeah. And it's a customer that I've been working with for the last couple of years, and they have this amazing headquarters in Beverly Hills with like all these yoga studios and cold plunges. And so it's cool to actually get to go out and like see all these businesses as well. And
it's cool. Yeah. So you're a yoga teacher, but then you also work as a sales engineer. How do you kind of balance all of that?
Yeah. It's not always easy, but I think the working from home element is really nice from a balance perspective. I work from home the majority of the time with work travel kind of built in there. But because of that, it gives me a little bit more flexibility and freedom to, know that I'm going to be home every Tuesday for a weekly class, for example. And I can just block off my calendar and make sure that that's my priority. So I think effective communication with work and like setting boundaries that I have this commitment that I care about a lot, and they're supporting that, which is great. And then, it's not always easy to balance, but I think it actually helps. My teaching yoga helps me be better at my corporate job. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, my corporate job probably helps me be better at yoga as well. So,
what are some of the ways you think it helps kind of interchangeably?
Well, I do a lot of presentations in my corporate role. So a lot of that client-facing work is, presenting to customers, or, my biggest presentation was this last year at one of our keynote customer conferences, and it was in front of 3,500 people. So it could be like public speaking essentially, and kind of a huge part of what makes a presentation successful in my field is beyond like the technical component and making sure that the software works and that it's solving the challenges that we learned about. It's also about connecting with the audience, and once again, having that personal connection where they don't feel like you're just another software vendor, but they really know you and understand you. So I think that focus on, I'm not just here to give you a presentation on Coupa, my company, and the software, but I really want to connect with you and get to know you and have a personal relationship is the differentiator in my job. And that carries over to yoga, where when you're teaching a yoga class, it's really about, connecting with the room and creating space where people feel comfortable to be themselves and to be open and to, just take some time to connect with themselves and the people in the room. So it's kind of a similar, like you're holding space for people, you're creating a safe place where people can connect and
that relationship.
Yeah, and build a relationship, leave feeling better than they did coming in is the goal.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So kind of backtracking a minute, you were new to the tech field. So what were some of the resources you had when you were starting out that kind of helped you make that transition from accounting to tech?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was building a network. So both in college and then once I got to Seattle and I was working in public accounting, definitely meeting peers, trying to put yourselves in situations where you're meeting as many people as you can early in your career, and then staying in touch with them through things like LinkedIn, seeing where they end up. And then I would, start to reach out to people that were working at tech companies that I was interested in, and just started asking, like, what is it like working there? How did you get a job here? And really through connections, through networking, both people I met in college as well as early on in my first year in public accounting in Seattle, they would start to give me ins to these companies on, how I might even just position a resume or position a cover letter or something to start to get hired. Of course, things like referrals too. So I'd say creating and leveraging a network and never being afraid to ask people to help you too, expressing interest that you want to do something that you've not done before, like getting into tech and seeking advice on proactively asking for help on, like, how can I do that? How did you do that? I found that people are like way more willing to help you and wanting to help you than I ever would have imagined.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you kind of led into my next question, which was, what advice would you give to somebody starting out in your field other than asking for help? What's something else you'd kind of give to them?
I think the biggest thing is just putting yourself out there, and early on in your career, trying to like put yourself in as many different experiences as you can, so that you actually are learning, like, what is it that you like?
Yeah.
What is it that you're good at? Like, what are some of the skill sets that you want to nurture and get better at? Where are like your natural strengths too?
Yeah.
And then kind of trying to find from that experience what's the best fit for you. Like I said, I had no idea what solutions consulting was when I was in college or graduated. But how I ended up there was by kind of defining, like, what are my strengths? What am I really good at? And what's like a good fit? What's a job that matches those? And that ended up being solutions consulting. So it felt really natural. And that just came from always raising my hand, putting myself out there, and being part of all of these groups, like Code Girls, like, this is part of that. And these extracurriculars in my early job where I could meet people and be exposed to different things. So, I would say put yourself out there and expose yourself to as much as possible. And that will start to open up doors that you didn't even expect.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And so you kind of talked about Code Girls. Can you talk about your experience with us and kind of how that's gone?
Yeah. So last year was my first year volunteering with Code Girls in the Whitefish school district. And it was an amazing experience. I wanted to, one, get more involved in the community, but also find ways to specifically help girls. And so kind of perfect mix of both. And it's just inspiring to me, being from somewhere that's fairly similar to rural Montana, small town Idaho, where I didn't get exposed to the tech world. And I had this kind of limiting belief that I wasn't capable of being, a coder or going into software engineering, just because it didn't seem possible. It didn't seem real. So seeing all of these girls in this class getting exposed to this skill set and to this profession and to all the opportunity, like, there are so many opportunities in this field and in tech in general, at such an early age, is super inspiring to me. So I've absolutely loved that. And then I also think just seeing girls improve throughout the school year is so fulfilling. And the feeling of, like, right after the competition this last school year, every team, no matter how they did in the competition, they were just on cloud nine, because you could tell they put effort into something. It was hard. They put themselves
so much time
there.
too.
Yeah,
time commitment.
Yeah, exactly. It's inspiring, and I think these are like core memories for people that can spearhead a future career that they never would have imagined. And
No, I am so thankful Code Girls was in Montana, because I moved here from Denver. My family moved up here when I was around 10. So I was like, well, we're moving to the middle of nowhere, so what am I going to do? But then Code Girls was in the paper the next year, so it was exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up here?
Organizations like this are so important, and I think the most important thing for any young girl is just, in anything really, but especially careers, just believing that you can do something and getting exposed to as much as possible, so that you understand, like, what's even possible.
Yeah.
And I think Code Girls does that. It gives you exposure to all these possibilities and gives you confidence that you can do these things. So you guys are just doing amazing work, and I'm excited to keep working with the
thank you so much.
organization. Yeah.
Excited to have you. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Next week on Code Girls on Air.
I was in middle school, right? I was involved with Code Girls. I was also involved in the science fair, and so I did kind of tech-related projects, but I wasn't ever super, set on, I want to be an electrical engineer, from the time I was little. And it wasn't really until I got into high school and started doing some of the engineering electives that Glacier High School offered. This is pretty interesting, and I've always had a passion for math and science. I'll give this a try when I get to college.